Good morning. I'm Pete Najarian. This is the Take on a Monday, and I missed you guys on Friday. So why don't we go all the way back to Thursday? And when you go back to Thursday, and we had those retail numbers that came out, and boy, what an impressive day for the markets. The NASDAQ actually recaptured that 14,000 level. We had a nice big move out of the Dow up about 300 points. So we had a really, really strong day. Volatility continues to be very under that 16 to 17 because of the fact that we're seeing a market that's been very contracted. It's been very, very tight, as we have not had what we started off the year with, which was so much intraday volatility, and we're seeing a little bit less and a little bit less of that. Although when I get to today's action, I'm going to tell you about something that really does have a lot of volatility into it. So that's a little teaser right now, but so Thursday was a very, very strong day. Friday, we backed it up again. Unemployment claims were solid. So because of that, we had a nice bit of a move to the upside, specifically out of the Dow. Dow was moving up about 160 points or thereabouts. NASDAQ, a lot less activity there, and materials. And we talk about this all the time. When we've talked about unusual option activity on the take, we've seen it many, many times, and we've seen so many. It's been U.S. Steel, it's been Freeport Mac, it's been, so many of those other names within the material space. Cliffs is another one of those. Vale is another one of those that consistently seem to hit. And these are the big names. They aren't just people going for flyers. They're going with the really big boys. And that's been something that has stood out. But it's gone back and forth a lot like energy. As a matter of fact, you go back to Friday, energy was one of the weakest. As a matter of fact, down nearly about a 1%. And yet you're looking at the price of crude, which has been steadily starting to show a little bit more strength of late. As a matter of fact, jumping into today, we look over at crude. Crude's still holding on to that 63 level where it had been. It's up just a little bit, but it's been really, really interesting to follow this. And we've had a lot of unusual option activity just today in a lot of different energy names. One of those names I'm going to talk about in a second. So the volatility on Friday, it stayed right in that same sort of a tight range, 16, 17, let's call it. 40 plus million contracts were trading on Friday again. So we recaptured that 40 million mark. And again, the activity just continues to be very, very strong in the derivatives market. Some of it might be some hedging, but most of it looks like a lot more speculation. And we're starting to find ourselves getting back towards the very, very short term. We had a period of time where we started seeing the options going out in time. They were going out to June or July, or they might even be going a little further than that. We aren't seeing that now. The last couple of sessions, we're seeing a lot of very, very close expiry type options that we are seeing. So today, what are we looking at? Well, Dow was down about 130 points. Not a big deal considering where the Dow is now from a percentage basis. NASDAQ started off fairly flat, down a little bit, but then had this big acceleration to the downside. Last I looked, the NASDAQ was down about 100 points. We had the Dow down about 120 points. So starting to pull a little bit on the S&P, and that's after some amazing runs to the upside. We've got a full day of trading in front of us. I think when we look at the earnings and what's been going there in terms of rolling and continuing to come out now, and Coca-Cola was the big one today, but I think when you look at crypto, that really is the story of the day. And you look at the cryptocurrency and a little bit of a hiccup that happened last Friday and going into Saturday, and in a very interesting movement that we've seen. And I mentioned, where is volatility? It's in Bitcoin. If you're looking for volatility right now, Coinbase certainly was an influence as well, but Friday, 61,000 was where Bitcoin was trading. Saturday, it was trading 51,000. Today, it's trading somewhere, and it can move very rapidly. We all know that, 56,000. So a lot of movement, a lot of flow, a lot of different news stories out there. And so that certainly, I think, steals the news story of the day. At least it does for me. So I'm looking over at tech early on. It was relatively flat, a little bit into the red. Energy was certainly the leader of what we were seeing sector-wise. That was up about 0.5%. And as I mentioned, crude still trading well above that 63 level, at least for now. So we know that things can move very, very quickly. Industrial is one of the worst early performers. That was pushing down about 0.5%, but there was multiple different areas in the sector as things are rotating around a little bit today. So we'll see how that shakes out. We're only 1 hour, a little over 1 hour into the trading session. So there's still a lot of day in front of us. So let's jump to a couple of unusual option activities. Number one, U.S. Steel, letter X. We've talked about this one countless times. I talked about materials just a moment ago. We are seeing more activity coming into U.S. Steel. As a matter of fact, stock was trading right around 23.88. we had a huge buyer, 8,600 of this week. Yeah, I talked about short term as well. The April 23rd expiring calls. These are the 25 calls. So they're buying about 8,600 of these. They started off at 18 cents, moved all the way up to a little over 50 cents for these options. So that stock started to move. The second we started to see all this activity coming into there, as that moved from 18 cents up to about 54 cents, just to keep track. And stock was just beneath 24. Second one, going back to energy, MRO, Marathon Oil. Now, this is another one. We have seen energy today. And we've seen multiple of names. And I will tell you this, most of them are in this sort of sector that I've called for a long time now, the beta names, the names that really move rapidly within. So this one, Marathon Oil, stands out. It's just underneath $11 a share. It's trading at 10.72. A buyer of 6,000, again, April 23rd, that's this Friday, the 11 strike calls. And those are going for about 13 cents to 60 cents. Very inexpensive option. Can the stock make a move that's going to get itself through 11 and up and over 11? That's what somebody's betting on right now. They got 6,000 of those contracts we're trading. We've seen a lot of that so far today in a lot of the unusual, as I mentioned, a lot of energy hitting, and mostly those beta names. We're not seeing the big, huge names, not seeing Exxon and Chevron, seeing a lot of these beta names that are hitting right now. Folks, if you don't know what I'm talking about when I'm talking about the derivatives markets, you need to get educated, read books, read the internet, read whatever, but you've got to get yourself up to speed, because this is the growth area. I talked about 40 million contracts on Friday. We recaptured that 40 million mark. Feels like as we get deeper into earnings, we might start seeing a little bit more activity and a little bit more of that volume in that 35 to maybe 40 million contract range. And that gives us all opportunities, but you've got to have the understanding of how these derivatives really do work. Folks, have a great day of trading. I'll see you tomorrow.